Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for coming. It is our honor this morning to have as our speaker Governor Kathy Hochul. So today is March 19th. It's almost spring. March Madness, or as they call it on the second floor, it's budget season. And we're grateful to have the governor back at ABNY as budget negotiations underway, because as we all know, the issues important to the governor around budget season have special weight, because this time of year in Albany is about much more than dollars and cents. It's about our priorities for the year ahead. Our governor enters this season fresh off a year of many accomplishments. And I should say, I don't take for granted the position she finds herself in as a moderate. MAGA on one side, socialists on the other. Probably did that wrong. It's complicated. It reminds me of my Jewish family, as we say, the ganze Mishpacha, where it's hard to please everybody, actually almost impossible to please everybody at the same time. But that doesn't lessen the power of someone who values finding common ground even as they stand up for what they believe in. That is the superpower of Governor Hochul. I want to take a moment to call out some of her recent accomplishments. First, let me start by saying she is afraid of no one, not even the president. She fought successfully to keep Gateway alive and funded. Woo! She fought successfully to keep counterterrorism funds for the NYPD and the FDNY, both of those accomplishments with direct calls from her to the White House. Now she's fighting for the 2nd Avenue subway. She found existing money to fund universal child care. Her program, Let Them Build, is a no-nonsense, practical way to make it easier and cheaper to build housing. If a community says yes to development, she's promised to cut the red tape to make it happen. She made community college free for adult learners pursuing high-demand careers. All right. Thank you to our friends from CUNY. She's protecting the mental health and education of our children, safeguarding minors from addictive algorithms, and most recently bell-to-bell, which doesn't allow kids to have phones while they're in class. I'm a parent. It's hard enough with 2 parents and 3 kids to keep the phones away. I feel for the teachers, and I say it is a wonderful thing that she led and got done. I could go on. Okay, thank you. It's like the parents kind of know that one and know it deeply. I could go on for just another moment and talk about 2 things moving forward. She is championing legislation to not let protesters harass people going in and out of houses of worship by keeping them 25 feet away from the property line. And she's pushing new forms of energy, including nuclear, because honestly, the world is eating more and more energy every day. Governor, thank you for all you do for New York. Your combined courage, compassion, and common sense are critical at this truly unusual moment in time. So before I invite her up to the stage, I want to recognize a number of the public officials who are here with us today. I'd ask that you hold your applause until the end. Council Speaker Julie Menon is here. Manhattan Borough President Brad Hoylman Siegel is here. Council members Virginia Maloney, Chanel Thomas Henry are here. Our Chancellor and proud ABNY board member Felix Matos Rodriguez is here from CUNY. Former speakers Corey Johnson and Chris Quinn are here, and I'm getting out of order, and our former governor, David Patterson, is here. I want to thank you all for what you do and what you have done, and And we have a first-time ABNY attendee here, which is the first gentleman of the state of New York, William Hochul. Thank you for coming. We hope you come back. Happy to sell you a ticket. You think you're gonna like the speaker. Governor, now I'm not a gambler, and I don't think I've ever been part of a March Madness pool, but I know a sure thing when I see one. And that sure thing is that you're gonna fight for what you believe in with integrity and honor and the ability to bring people together, even if they might not always see things eye to eye. I know you'll be talking about AI this morning and jobs, the future of our economy and how we meet this moment. I suspect it will take a while for people to see eye to eye on this one, and that's really why we appreciate you raising it. Governor, we're grateful to have you here. Please join me in giving a warm ABNY welcome to our Governor, Kathy Hochul.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you for creating the opportunity for me to get reacquainted with someone who calls himself my husband. I don't get a chance to see him much. We've been married 42 years, but if you actually calculate the time together, we're probably about 18 years. Thank you all for being here today. I always look forward to this event. And to Stephen and everyone at ABNY, thank you for carrying on the fight after many, many decades and giving us an organization that people can believe in. And to everyone who's part of it, and I cannot ever say the word ABNY without mentioning Bill Rudin and his family, and thank them for their early leadership and forward thinking that brought us here today. A lot of elected officials, but a special shout out to our Speaker, Julie Menon, once again, and our Manhattan Borough President, Brad Hoylman-Segal, who shows up at all my events now that he's not a senator up in Albany. He's able to come to everything. And also my colleagues in government. I want to give a special shout out to my extraordinary leadership team. I have assembled the best of the best in all those true public servants who lift me up every day, and I want to give a special acknowledgement to Karen Persichelli-Keogh, who's the Secretary of the Governor, and my entire team that's here today. As I said, it's great to see everyone here at ABNY. As I was on my way here, I was thinking about just how the world has changed so dramatically since I first addressed you. You may not remember, but I was a brand new governor in December of 2022. And if you recall, it was a time of tremendous upheaval and uncertainty. Businesses suffered lockdowns and restrictions. Job losses were rampant. Inflation reared its ugly head. Crime was way up. Office buildings were empty. This city felt like a ghost town, and our transit system was careening off a fiscal cliff, and that threatened the very lifeblood of this city. I'm so proud to say, working alongside many of you, that we pulled New York back from the abyss. I don't need to tell you there's a whole lot more life in Midtown, more than anyone thought possible. There's a resurgence in private sector jobs, more than we had before the pandemic. New major investments in technology and advanced manufacturing, and this city leads the nation in return to work. We're a top destination for recent college graduates, #1 in the nation for office conversions into housing after I repealed a 60-year-old law that stood in the way. Tourism has returned, our hotels are full, and we're about to welcome the world as we host the FIFA World Cup finals this summer and Sail 250, commemorating the birth of our great nation. And we've done all this work to get New York where it is today, and it's good, it's positive, except for one thing. This recovery has not benefited all New Yorkers equally. Middle and working class people struggle to get by, from small business owners in the Bronx to healthcare workers in Queens. I hear the frustration and anger everywhere I go. People tell me they're working harder than ever, but still falling behind, or it feels like the system is rigged against honest, hardworking people. You know, many of us in this room grew up believing that if you worked hard, you played by the rules, got an education, a good job was more than possible, it was inevitable. But today, even with a college education, it doesn't guarantee you'll get a job. And just last week, a Bloomberg report showed the job market for graduates who flocked to New York is now cratering. The number of entry-level jobs in the city fell 37% in just 2 years, 2022 and 2024. Now, for these young people, it feels like the rug has been pulled out from under them. And guess what? Now they're burdened with student debt, preparing for a job that no longer exists. So here's what I worry about, and it should concern all of us. When the hopes of our young people are dashed, it can destabilize an entire community. And it's not just recent college grads who've had the door of opportunity slammed in their face. Families are feeling it too. Millions of middle-class families just can't get their heads above water. Housing, childcare, groceries, utilities, car insurance, medical bills are all soaring. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, in the 3 weeks since the United States launched a military campaign against Iran, the average price of gas in New York is up 21%, up 62 cents per gallon. Remember when owning a home was once considered a true measure of success? It is more out of reach than ever before. Not long ago, the average age of a first-time home buyer was 30 years old. I think Bill and I were about 30 when we got our first home. Now it's middle age, 40. I know 40-year-olds don't want to be called middle-aged, I get it. But you are. People feel left behind. Okay, I just insult half the room. Hey, I haven't seen middle age in a long time, okay? So you're not going to get any sympathy from me. But you know, listen, people also not getting the house, they see a record stock market and big tax cuts out of Washington for the wealthiest. And then they say, what happened? What about my American dream? And I believe as a society, if we ignore those powerful emotions and frustrations, we do so at our own peril. And that's why I've devoted so much of my energy and political capital addressing that sense that people have that no one is listening or cares, and with a laser focus on affordability. Now, I have to overcome NIMBYism in this state, which has stifled our ambition to build. We're finally now saying yes to housing so we can start driving down rents. I'm taking on entrenched interests to drive down one of the highest auto insurance rates in the nation. Fulfilling my long-time commitment to universal child care while working with the mayor to find a path to universal child care for every single 2-year-old in this city. Now, yes, got some parents in the room. Smart business owners know that child care is a value proposition for them. Now think about it. If you're an employer competing for young talent that can go anywhere in the country, but you're able to say, New York City, New York State have universal child care that'll save your family $20,000 to $40,000 per year per child, my bet is that New York City employers win out every time. With that kind of pro-family work environment, it sends a clear message to moms and dads. We hear you, we know what you're up against, and we want you to succeed. What I'm fighting for is a New York that works for everyone. A New York that not only empathizes what everyone's up against, but takes action. Like directing the state of New York on our own to absorb a $7 billion unemployment burden on our small businesses. Restoring tax breaks to those that were killed to allow for more affordable housing to be built. And in this budget, I'm fighting to change the seeker laws. They're stymieing growth. And given that our renewable energy policies, our strategy has been kicked in the teeth by Donald Trump, who, by the way, is literally paying off companies to cancel offshore wind contracts, I have to focus on an all-the-above strategy for energy, including the most ambitious nuclear energy strategy in the entire country. And we have demonstrated an intense focus on both retaining and attracting new businesses and jobs. And I hope you all share my intense pride that we landed the largest private sector investment in American history with Micron, 50,000 jobs, $100 billion, semiconductors outside of Syracuse. In fact, I woke up this morning, I read the news from all across the state, and I saw pictures of their construction site. I was so happy. And the news that Micron's profits have tripled since the last quarter. And their CEO is saying their memory chips are at the center of the AI revolution. This is an enormous opportunity for New York, and I fought so hard to secure this. At the same time, we also are home to the nation's largest public sector investment, the Gateway Tunnel, with over 10,000 good-paying jobs. And yet, this critically important project, Donald Trump tried to kill that too. And I had to fight hard to get it back. Just like I had a fight, as you heard from Stephen, over congestion pricing, the 2nd Avenue subway, counterterrorism money, all earmarked for New York. And now, my latest fight is getting the $13.5 billion that I say New Yorkers and New York families overpaid with Donald Trump's illegal tariff scheme. I want that money back in our pockets, too. So I'm not afraid of a fight. As I told a reporter on St. Patrick's Day, asking me about all this, I said, I'm Irish. We like to fight. But isn't that New York's calling card? We all do. We're tough. We're shrewd. We never back down. Call it moxie. The city has it in spades, and we're going to need it more than ever before. And that's why I want to turn now, for the next few minutes, to talk about threats, but also the opportunities that I see facing us in the short term and in the long term. Now, we have entered a period of great upheaval, a seismic shift unlike anything we've seen since the Industrial Revolution, this time driven by a newer technology, artificial intelligence. Now, make no mistake, New York will embrace the best that AI has to offer in terms of efficiency and innovation. But we also have to reckon with the ways that it's disrupting the foundations of our society. As I mentioned before, generations have long relied on a tried and true path to success, education, good jobs. All of a sudden, you're on the pathway to the middle class and beyond. I know. That's my own family story, rising up from its pretty tough circumstances. And yet, AI threatens to make that American rite of passage obsolete. Across the board, the AI revolution is hitting workers like an earthquake, squeezing more efficiency out of senior staff, forcing mid-level workers to find new jobs, and leaving entry-level workers out in the cold. Just this Tuesday, I sat with some young tech workers whose jobs were recently eliminated by AI. They know that because that's what their boss said. They were understandably frustrated and demoralized. Now, they had played it safe. They studied coding and computer science, like everybody told them to do. And they entered once secure fields. They became project managers, graphic designers. Some even moved to New York from the Midwest. Others came here on work visas from other countries. All of them with big dreams. And now those dreams are deferred. They're seeing an almost nonstop wave of layoffs. Layoffs that their executives blame on AI, even when the company was posting record profits. What it's doing is creating have and have not divide, a divide between the C-suites and the workers, as they're seeing full-time jobs replaced by contract work with no benefits. They're seeing AI change our workforce to become more homogenous than diverse, once our great strength. And they're now seeing the firsthand invisible cost of AI. Because of all its efficiency and innovation, we now know that AI can never replace human empathy and emotion. One recently laid off graphic designer told me she feels even if she finds another job, she's just catching the last train because the opportunities are rapidly evaporating. And she has a decade of experience. It's even harder for someone just starting out. But it's not just our tech workers. It's people working in administration, healthcare, marketing, finance. Almost no line of work is immune. And recent studies say that women make up 86% of the jobs most vulnerable to AI losses. And polls show that young voters share a widely held fear of a white-collar wipeout and massive job losses. And they don't believe government will help. But I intend to prove them wrong. We cannot freeze our economy in amber and pretend that AI isn't here to stay. But if we ignore what's happening with the job placement due to AI, Our efforts to put more money back in New Yorkers' pockets and their wallets won't have much impact when the wallet is already completely empty because there has been no job, when a job disappears. But think about it. Two things can be true at the same time. AI can and must be a force for good. At the same time, it could literally eliminate many entry and mid-level jobs that are the pathway to the middle class and beyond. If that occurs, we can have an economic and societal crisis beyond anything our generations have witnessed. So when people feel the economy is not working for them, that there's no way to get ahead, that's when they become susceptible to empty promises of politicians like Donald Trump. But here's the truth. Donald Trump isn't going to solve this. That is, unless there's a way to make money off of it. But we must seize this moment. New Yorkers can do, have to do, what we've always done before. That is stand up and lead. And I'm calling on elected and business and civic leaders to join me in tackling these challenges head on. Because I believe we can harness the best that AI has to offer while taking steps to not let AI destabilize our economy, our workers, and our way of life. We're not naive. We understand the inevitability that some jobs may be eliminated by AI. Some already have. In the world I grew up in Buffalo, New York, go Bills. It's always next year, always next year. But foreign competition and automation eliminated the good-paying blue-collar jobs of the steel plant that my grandpa and my dad worked at. And sadly, the shell-shocked, displaced workers felt they were literally abandoned by their government. This time, we cannot let that happen. Employers today and in the future will expect their employees to have a baseline of AI proficiency. So starting now, let's arm our workers and our students with the knowledge and credentials to help them thrive in this new world. My ambition is for New York to lead the nation in AI innovation, coupled with a workforce that's ready to use their AI to their advantage and not be victims of it. Here's what we're doing already. Free community college for adults pursuing careers in high-demand fields where you need a human touch, nursing, healthcare, manufacturing. We're also launching a new program to train and place underrepresented college students in AI-enabled careers, and providing AI training for small business owners and entrepreneurs so they can take advantage of this. Plus, at the state level, we're upskilling 100,000 state employees in responsible AI use and giving them access to approved generative AI models. Let me be clear, we're not replacing workers. We're arming them to thrive in an AI-driven economy. And if our workforce is the gold standard in terms of AI readiness, New York will be the first place that AI companies consider when they start setting up shop. We want them creating jobs instead of eliminating them. And I believe New York can be an engine of AI job creation, and I commit to working toward that goal. But if New York wants to be the go-to destination for the AI firms of the future, we have to be clear-eyed about the downsides as well, including those massive data centers. We get it. They're critical for AI firms, but they consume enormous amounts of energy. So if we let these energy-guzzling data centers proliferate, they will put a strain on our already strained power grid and drive up utility costs. So our proposal is simple. If companies want to build massive data centers in our state, they have to either create their own power, which is possible, or contribute more to New York's energy infrastructure. Innovation should not shift the costs onto working families and their utility bills. It should be a powerful tool for public good. And that's why I partnered with the state's leading private and public institutions to create Empire AI. Have you heard of it? Look it up. Look it up. This is extraordinary. We have created the most powerful supercomputer in the nation, harnessed for public good, making it available to our research institutions, our colleges, universities, only in New York. No other state has it. And we're delivering on my vision to have accelerated breakthroughs in medicine, climate science, cybersecurity, and we're making sure the next generation of AI is developed responsibly and transparently right here in New York. In my 2024 State of the State, I said, as I announced Empire AI, I declared whoever owns AI owns the future. Advances are happening fast. And like I said, I want those innovations made right here in the great state of New York, not Ohio, not California, not China, not Europe. Now, no one can predict exactly how artificial intelligence really will reshape our world. Ask 3 different experts, you'll get 5 different opinions. But the stakes are just too high to leave it to chance. And if AI is destined to reconfigure the global economy, New York must be on the front lines. And that's why today I am launching the FutureWorks Commission, convening leaders in business, technology, labor, academia, and government to help us understand the risks and opportunities ahead. It'll have an ambitious agenda to study how AI is shaping jobs and industries, track both the worst disruptions and the most promising, find the new opportunities for workers, and recommend policies to ensure New Yorkers benefit from the AI transformation instead of getting shut out. Now to conclude, you can applaud at that. New York has always been the place where seemingly unsolvable challenges get solved. 55 years ago, when the city had its back up against the wall, the founders of ABNY came together, guided by this basic principle: if you do well in New York, you have an obligation to give back to New York. And back then, when the naysayers would have you believe New York City was dead and buried, that urban America was a failed experiment, and New York City's troubles just proved that point. And yet the founders of ABNY stood up and says, no, not on our watch. We need that same mindset now, because the challenges I discussed today demand our attention just as the fiscal crisis of the 70s did back then. I will end with my vision for New York. With the help of the smart people in this room, we can safeguard workers so they're not left behind by AI. We can build an economy that is pro-worker and pro-innovation. We can build a New York that is more affordable, family-friendly, and a place where businesses want to invest and workers can pursue their dreams. And be a center of gravity for the future of AI and the envy of this country and the world, even more than we already are. And working with the real sense of purpose, we can define and create a future that will have prosperity for everyone to share in. Thank you very much.
Governor, thank you for that. Let's start with a few questions about AI. Could you talk to me about the state's experience in just using AI? Do you use AI in your office? Has it been helpful?
AI in our office is where I mentioned I'm training 100,000 state workers on how to use it. And I would say that it's being used lightly now, but I'm using outside companies and artificial intelligence to do something that is quite extraordinary. I want to look at every single regulation, law, policy, all the task forces, everything that is part of state government has been there for decades, and have AI help us figure out, does it make sense today? Why is this law still on the books when it's obsolete? Is this policy redundant? Is this too burdensome? So I'm going in and re-examining all facets of state government, harnessed with the help of my brilliant teams, outside consultants, and also AI, to just reimagine government in a way that's going to set us on a more positive path forward and create efficiencies, but also just a smarter government. We found out that there's laws on the books that say women who are pregnant cannot work in grocery stores. Okay. I don't think I need that taking up space in my books, right? You know, we still have to use telegrams to communicate. Haven't done that in about a century. But that's just the easy ones. I also want to look at the laws and the regulations that are barriers to our prosperity and our success and pro-growth. And AI will be helping with that as well. So absolutely. Do I use it? I use it more as a search engine, like a Google. Like I wanted to check on the price of gas today in New York State. You know, got that pretty quickly. So yeah, it is very helpful.
By the way, did this happen? Did you have like an aha moment where you're like, oh, I need to do this? Was it that something someone said to you, or you're just cooking on the AI thing for a while and you naturally decided to make this move today?
For today's announcement?
Yep.
No, this has been troubling me for a while. It's been on my mind. As I said, I'm very excited about AI, especially with Empire AI and the possibilities and how it has really put New York on the map. I cannot tell you the number of professors that were going to teach at a different university are now saying, I want to come to New York because I have access to this power, students and PhD candidates. It is amazing what is happening because of this. So I see that power there, but I also know, as I'm hearing, I talk to everybody. I do go to diners and talk to everybody. They're telling me like, hey, I just lost my job. Why? Well, I got wiped out by AI. I'm hearing this, and so I'm also internalizing these frustrations. I decided to come up with this commission with my team. It's just a way to bring together the smartest people. And there's been a lot of studies on this, and I think one thing is clear, we don't know the answers. But I want to make sure that we are ready for the unknown. And that might mean helping people transition into different careers. I spent so much time as a member of Congress, as an elected official, going into high schools and telling everybody, be really smart to study computer science and coding. I'm not sure I would do that today. I might say, let's make sure that people understand in our educational system the power of AI, how it can be used, but that may not be something that's going to be in a career that you're going to be going for. And I have a lot of other thoughts on this, but I want to convene smart people. But I'm impatient. I want the report from this commission done by November, December. So we move fast. We move fast.
Can you drill a little bit on who you see on this commission? Like, will you include AI companies? Do you see a heavy tech sector involved in this? Is it labor? Who's there?
Everybody. I mean, I'm almost ready to announce the co-chairs, which would be very influential people, well-known. And there's a lot of people who want to be part of it.
You could break that now. You could share.
One was a global CEO who had to ask her board first. I'll just say that. So no, we're on the verge of announcing, but and I'll get that out to you. But no, it's going to be real thought leaders. And there's, I was just reading this morning. Washington Post had reports from Brookings and Gov AI, and there's a lot of think tanks around this. But they're actually, some of them are coming up with conflicting information, which is why I know this is not a settled science at all. There's just too much unknown. One thing we know about AI is that we just don't know much. And I'm the type of person who just wants to, if there's an opportunity, I want to be first, I want to be the best, I want to be the place people want to come to be, which is why Empire AI set us apart. I was out in Silicon Valley talking to leaders of tech companies, and they were saying to me, we wish our governor and our government had done this first, because people are looking in awe of what we've created here. Again, this is power that you cannot even comprehend and is being used to solve society's greatest problems. And I'm really proud of that. But that attracts a whole new workforce to come here. So I will let you know as soon as I can. I know I'm kind of filibustering here. But there's a lot of people, yes, it would be labor, technology, business, academia, you name it. It's going to be everybody, but in an approach that is driven toward results, okay? I don't do commissions just for the sake of saying, oh, I checked the box, I did a commission. This is going to have real tangible recommendations that we can then implement either by executive order, by policy, or in our next budget.
And by the way, let me say thank you. Like, we're a community that cares about a strong economy. We're a community that cares about jobs. And I think this is, people love using AI. People also super nervous about their future. So we really appreciate you stepping into this one because it's complicated. And we look forward to hearing more from you on this one in the future. You mentioned a couple of things, so I'd love to ask you a few questions about the president. You guys seem to talk. Can you just talk about your relationship with him? And do you feel you're getting enough of the things you need, or is he a predominantly, let's say, hostile force to our city and state?
I've created a relationship built on necessity. Right? I need him to answer the phone at 10:30 at night when I'm about to go speak to 1,000 now unemployed.
Are you guys FaceTiming when that goes down?
No, I do not want to see him.
Okay.
That'd be too much. But I called the night before I was going to see a large number of unemployed construction workers who thought they had a job for possibly decades building something that is essential to our stability is the northeastern busiest corridor rail line, that's Gateway Tunnel. And I was proud I was able to get that over the finish line, working with the confluence of Joe Biden and my relationship with Phil Murphy. That hadn't happened for a long time, and we finally able to get the magic together to get it done. And now I said, Mr. President, I'm heading out tomorrow to go talk to about 1,000 unemployed construction workers who probably voted for you, by the way. A lot of them probably did. What would you like me to tell them? What do you mean? What do you mean when we said, well, you cut off the funding for the Gateway Tunnel. We kept it going as long as we could, and now it's out of money, so people have lost their jobs. Oh, so didn't give an answer then, but the money was back in 2 days. So, or the time that we had just heard we were losing almost $200 million in essential homeland security and counterterrorism dollars for NYPD and FDNY. That was cut off. Another late night call. Mr. President, do you know about this loss of money? And am I going to have to say that you're defunding the police here? It's not a good look. The money was back in about a day and a half. But I'm just, and also one more area where I thought it was really important is protecting our state and our city from a surge in ICE agents, followed by the National Guard, as we saw in Los Angeles, we saw it in Chicago, we've seen it elsewhere, certainly Minneapolis. But after Chicago, he said that he was sending them to New York. Well, this ain't gonna happen under my watch. So I called him up, and I just kind of made the case, Mr. President, you're a New Yorker, I know you care about the city, you've got properties here, friends, businesses, investments. I think that'd be pretty destabilizing to the economic engine for the nation. And it's probably not a good optic for us to have all that, because we have a lot of protesters. We definitely know how to protest, believe me, I know. But you think we can just hold off on that? Because if I have any problems, I've got the National Guard to help me out here, and I'll let you know if I need any extra help. And I'm thinking, I don't know if this is going to work or not. To hang up. The next day, he's in the Oval Office, and he gets asked if he's going to New York, as he said he would do. And he said, well, I just talked to the governor, and, seemed like a good conversation, and she's going to call me if she needs our help. So, okay, I think we're good. So those are the conversations that are just, and like I said, in the White House the other day, he was asked in the White House, we had a meeting of national governors, and he was asked, what is the lesson that you took away from Minneapolis? And I thought it was a good question. And he very quickly said, we only go where we're wanted. That's enlightened. And he said, I'll only go to New York if Kathy wants me to. And he looks over at me, he's like, well, that's not happening. You're not getting that call anytime soon. But I thought, so those are the kind of, do I want to have those conversations? No, because then sometimes we're arguing intensely over offshore wind, brutal conversations on offshore wind. Brutal, trying to get that turned back on. And I did get it turned back on, but it was meetings in the White House and sitting with his cabinet and having to hear all about how horrible offshore wind is. In fact, he was sitting on St. Patrick's Day with the Prime Minister of Ireland and all the things you can talk about. He's going on about how he's going to absolutely kill offshore wind in this country, never going to let it happen. Now, I have an energy plan that is waiting and contingent upon wind, solar, battery storage, and he pulled the plug on most of it, which is creating some other challenges for us in Albany. But so I will keep having the conversations. They're not always that friendly and cordial, but that's all right. I can take it.
In the spirit of talking about relationships with other politicians, can you talk a bit about your relationship with the mayor and how it's going.
Yeah, I've had some interesting days where I talk to the mayor in the morning and the president at night. But I feel well suited.
Do you hit merge when that comes?
Yeah. You know, I feel very well positioned and experienced in the ability to deal with people. You know, different points of view, and people I don't agree with in many areas. But I also have respect for the fact that the voters put them in a job, and my job is to make them be successful because the voters decide. And I'm not going to disrespect the voters who want someone to be in office, whether it's the president, the mayor, the governors of others, anybody. I just have this bottom line of respect. And so I need the mayor to be successful. And I need to be a partner for him in that success, which is why we stepped up right away to help achieve one of his ambitions, which has been mine, as we invested $8 billion over the last few years in building up the infrastructure to have universal child care. And he wanted to start with 2-year-olds, and I said, we can do that. So we made that happen his 8th day on the job to let him know that I am a willing partner when we have shared values and shared beliefs. And their financial crisis, right off the bat, you know, here's $1.5 billion just to give you some breathing room to help with your finances. So it's a very cordial, friendly relationship. I will say that for sure. I think it's built on mutual respect of our positions, but also, you know, a couple days before the election, you know, he and others wanted to campaign with me, and I said, well, I'm going to be in a Buffalo Bills bar in Queens. You want to join me there? So all of our citywide elected candidates came, and we watched some Buffalo Bills and had chicken wings together. That was probably a sign of respect for me. You know, that's how I took it. So I'll make it all work. I think people should just not worry about, you know, Washington, the city, elsewhere. I know how to manage relationships and get the results, which is often helping them achieve the goals that I share, but also making sure they understand my goals and my priorities and making sure those are executed on as well. So we're going to be fine.
Amen. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you a question about the budget. So let's say we have 2 more questions, and I'd love you to give us a sense of like where it is now, what success looks like for you in this budget season. I saw there were single house resolutions passed this past week. How's it feeling?
No, it feels good. It feels good. We've, you know, as we say, it's not our first rodeo. We've been to this a number of years now. We sort of know the rhythm, what people need to do, you know, in their one houses. You know, it's a statement of their priorities. I respect that. They have very diverse voices in their conferences that they want to have represented. Okay. I laid out my priorities in my budget. I'm not wavering from my priorities. And so the meetings have started. Again, very cordial, very respectful with the 2 leaders. And now we're meeting with our senior teams. And so we'll get to the right place. I always strive for an on-time budget. Sounds good to me. Although when I was a young intern working for the New York State Assembly, where I met my husband, he was an intern as well, budgets were done in July and August. I actually thought that was the deadline. Did not know till many years later that there was a April 1st deadline. So I will strive for that. But if you look at what we achieved in overtime, all of my priorities have been implemented, whether it's the necessary changes to the bail laws, last year the discovery laws, a whole host of changes that I know were important. And this year I feel the same. You know, people know that I'm fighting to reduce costs for people. I am taking on the high cost of car insurance on many fronts. I'm talking about making sure that we have, you know, ways to deal with the energy crisis and be sensible about it and fight climate change in a way that we know is actually doable instead of aspirational. And so I'm ready for all the, you know, the back and forth. But people don't know, nothing bothers me. So I know people need to know they do what they do, but at the end of the day, I'm the governor, and I put forth a budget and my vision, and I believe that vision is backed by 20 million New Yorkers, and that gives me a lot of strength in my negotiation.
Terrific. I'll ask you one final question. I just came across you talking about working in the 1980s for Senator Moynihan, who some of us knew and had a lot of respect for and hope the train station continues to be named for him.
It will, over my dead body. We are not messing with that man's memory.
Things are getting renamed a little bit out there. Best lesson you learned from him that you still think about?
I will say this, working for him as a young person in my 20s was the highest goal I aspired to. When I was a teenager, I'd gone to Washington on a field trip and many times to just visit the Capitol, and my dream was, all I want to do is be a staffer for a senator someday. Now, when you're a woman back in that era, that's as high as it was going to get, because women were not running for office in any large numbers at all. And when I was hired by Senator Moynihan, it felt like such a privilege, because I knew there were a lot of people who wanted my job. I was an attorney on his staff. But he taught me he showed me what statesmanship was all about. He showed me how to work across the aisle in a way that is very foreign today. And as a young staffer working on the immigration bill, the 1987 immigration bill, we got together, pulled all-nighters with the Republican staff. And by day, the Republicans and Democrats, led by Moynihan many times, would actually, have very loud disagreements. But at the end of the day, they'd go have a drink together, have dinner, and the families would socialize. And I just felt very proud to be part of a government that embodied what I believe this country is all about. People who step up, people who are so passionate about helping other people that you put aside the partisanship. You try to find a common ground. So he taught me to find that middle where most people are, and to not end up in one of the extreme camps, to just be that person who speaks for the vast majority of people who feel right now their voices are not being heard. So I miss that era of statesmanship, when you could have Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan come together and agree on a package on crime or immigration, when you had Orrin Hatch and Howard Baker and Bob Dole and Moynihan and Jay Rockefeller and Joe Biden and all just working together. And I just haven't, and as I went back to Congress as an elected member in 2011, 2012, I was looking for that, and I didn't see it. It was gone already. But I, in my heart, have never given up on the belief that it's still possible, that if you elect people who understand that this country is an extraordinary experiment that is still ongoing for the next 250 years, that each one of us in elective office have the responsibility to uphold what that really stands for and not get mired down in the mudslinging and the fighting that has now defined our politics. So he taught me to think and believe in this country as a place that is a beacon to the rest of the world, a vanguard against communism at the time and standing up for oppressed nations. But I don't know if we'll ever get another one of that caliber again, but this country deserves to have people like that in the highest offices, and I'm not giving up on it.
Let me end by saying, we notice that that's you. We notice that you are that stateswoman and how important that is for our city and our state, and we're grateful. We want to say thank you for being here today, but more important, thank you for having those values.